pounds of oxygen, 926 pounds of water, and 2,903 pounds of dry cargo. You're looking now live at a view of Gagarin's launch pad at Site 1 at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The skies have cleared, the vehicle fully fueled. The fueling operations began several hours ago, and we're now just 23 minutes away from launch. This is the first launch of the Soyuz U booster and a Progress resupply vehicle since the incident that occurred back on December 1st, in which a malfunction in the propulsion system in the third stage of that Soyuz booster caused a loss of the 65 Progress cargo craft and all of its contents. So this is an important launch in the chronology of resupply chain vehicles for the International Space Station. The Russian State Commission and the Russian space industry did an exhaustive analysis, study, and view of all of the components of this Soyuz booster, fully confident that today will be the day for a safe and successful launch to send the Progress into its preliminary orbit en route to the International Space Station, and a two-day rendezvous that will culminate to an automated link-up to the Pirs docking compartment on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station at 2:34 a.m. Central Time, 3:34 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday morning. On board the International Space Station at this hour, the wake-up call has just been given for the Expedition 50 crew, the six-person crew on board the International Space Station, led by NASA's commander, Shane Kimbrough. Cleared, the vehicle will be intently watching the progress of the Progress itself as it makes its way from the launch pad to its preliminary orbit. Kimbrough joined by Russian cosmonauts Andrei Botasenko, Sergei Ryzhikov, and Oleg Novitsky, European Space Agency astronaut Thomas Pesquet of France, and of course NASA's Peggy Whitson. This view now of the cavernous International Space Station Flight Control Room at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside of Moscow, where the flight control team there will be in of the Progress's flight to the International Space Station once the resupply craft itself detaches from the third stage of the Soyuz booster. From launch until third stage separation, it is the blockhouse engineers at Baikonur who are monitoring all of the vehicle functions as the third stage, the three stages of the Soyuz booster propel the Progress resupply craft to its preliminary orbit. Again, it will take 8 minutes, 46 seconds from the launch pad to the preliminary orbit for the Progress as it makes its way through the various stages, the three stages of the Soyuz booster that will lift the Progress to its preliminary orbit and send it on its way. These are views that were taken by Roscosmos and RSC Energia of the various stages of the encapsulation last Friday of the Progress resupply vehicle. The Progress was inserted into the upper stage of the Soyuz booster that was then mated on Sunday. The three sections of the Soyuz booster mated. The rollout of the Soyuz to the launch pad took place in snowy weather on Monday morning. You can see these pictures here as it made its way out of the integration building. Was on the rail car that takes it to the launch pad, as is commonplace for both Progress and Soyuz manned vehicles. And of course, the Progress atop its Soyuz booster then was lifted vertically on the launch pad. The gantry arms swung shut around the Soyuz booster, and that enabled technicians to begin the 2 days of final checkouts of the power lines, the fuel lines, all of the data and telemetry going to the vehicle, where it now stands just 19 minutes away from launch. Once again, liftoff time is scheduled at 11:58 and 33 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:58 and 33 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, which is 11:58 and 33 seconds a.m. at the launch site in Baikonur, just 2 minutes before noon. The weather in Baikonur quite frigid, just 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's no issue for the hardy Soyuz booster. as it stands fully fueled, ready to take the Progress on an almost 9-minute journey into its preliminary orbit, after which the Progress will have a pre-programmed set of commanding for engine firings and maneuvers that will take the Progress into close proximity to the International Space Station on Friday morning for its automated docking to the Pirs docking compartment. Now back with a live view of the fueled Soyuz booster on the launch pad. This is Site 1, Gagarin's launch pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, with liftoff now just under 18 minutes from now. And just to put all of this visiting vehicle traffic in perspective, as we mentioned at the top of the broadcast, the SpaceX Dragon cargo craft, carrying more than 2.5 tons of supplies and experiments for the crew on board the International Space Station, is in the final hours of its approach for grapple and berthing to the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. We will be covering all of that with our broadcast for Rendezvous and Capture beginning at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. The actual grapple with Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency and Shane Kimbrough of NASA operating the Canadarm2 robotic arm from a workstation in the cupola of the International Space Station. Grapple is scheduled at 5 a.m. Central Time. Once grappled, they'll hand over the robotic chores to ground controllers here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, who will maneuver Dragon into its installation position. We'll be back on the air for the installation and the bolting of Dragon in place to the nadir or Earth-facing port of Harmony beginning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Today's launch of the unpiloted Progress resupply vehicle will kick off a busy period for the Russian engineers down at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, as well as the support personnel associated with the search and recovery forces, who will be standing by on April 10th for the return to Earth of Shane Kimbrough, Andrei Borisenko, and Sergei Ryzhikov aboard the Soyuz MSO-2 spacecraft. That will wrap up a journey for them that began last October. Kimbrough, now the commander of the International Space Station. Before he and his crewmates depart the station on April 10th, he will have handed over command of the International Space Station to his NASA colleague Peggy Whitson. All of that with our broadcast for a 51 increment. After Kimbrough, Borisenko should come home. The stage is set for the launch of the Soyuz MSO-4 vehicle from the Baikonur Cosmodrome. That will launch 2 crew members, Russian Soyuz commander Fyodor Yurchikhin and NASA astronaut Jack Fisher, to the International Space Station to join Whitson, Novitsky, and Pesquet as a 5-person crew on board the International Space Station. But the road to space is focused at this hour on the launch pad of the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, as we are just 14 minutes away now from liftoff that will send the unpiloted Progress resupply craft with 2.9 tons of cargo aboard en route for a 2-day rendezvous to the International Space Station. Once the Progress reaches its preliminary orbit, there will be 2 rendezvous maneuver burns that will be planned for later in the day today. Those rendezvous burns are designed to increase the Progress's altitude and to fine-tune its path to the International Space Station. There will be other maneuvers scheduled over the course of the next 2 days before automated rendezvous operations begin in the vicinity of the International Space Station in the wee hours of Friday morning. And by the way, our programming on Friday for docking will begin at 1:45 a.m. Central Time, 2:45 a.m. Eastern Time, for a docking that is scheduled at 2:34 a.m. Central, 3:34 a.m. Eastern Time. That would be on Friday, February 24th. As you can see in this panorama of the launch site and the surroundings around the launch pad at Site 1 at Baikonur, there is snow on the ground. Several inches of snow have fallen over the past few days, and as mentioned previously, the temperature at this hour, 15 degrees Fahrenheit at the launch site in Kazakhstan. The International Space Station and its 6 crew members are currently flying 250 miles over the southwest Atlantic Ocean, having just crossed Argentina, now about to begin a southwest to northeasterly swing. The station will be over the South Atlantic at the time of the Progress launch, just 12 minutes from now. This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, you're looking at Site 1, the launch pad at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, where the Soyuz U booster is fully fueled, ready to take flight just 10 minutes from now to send the unpiloted Progress resupply vehicle to its preliminary orbit en route to the International Space Station, with docking scheduled on Friday morning. The Progress will link up to the Pirs docking compartment on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the station to deliver 2.9 tons of food, fuel, and supplies for the crew members on board the orbital outpost. Telemetry from the Soyuz booster and the Progress being received both at the blockhouse in Baikonur, where the launch engineering team is carefully monitoring all of the Soyuz systems, as well as that telemetry being received by flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov outside of Moscow.
Radio processing Progress data. The experts, flight controllers reporting the readiness for the compass.
Here in the flight control room in Houston, 2 sets of visiting vehicle officers are monitoring their respective spacecraft, both the Progress as well as the SpaceX Dragon. The visiting vehicle officer in charge of Dragon operations is Dave Harshman. He is at that console that we're zooming in right now, and he is in touch with his counterparts in Hawthorne, California, who are monitoring all of Dragon's systems as it steadily makes its way toward the International Space Station, with many of its critical rendezvous maneuvers coming up in the next several hours that will lead to its capture, its grapple by expedition crew members Thomas Pesquet and Shane Kimbrough using the Canadarm2 robotic arm. That grapple scheduled at 5 a.m. Central Time, 6 a.m. Eastern Time. 7.5 minutes now until the launch of the Progress vehicle. At this point, the launch key has been inserted in the launch bunker, transitioning the launch sequence into its automated mode for the final several minutes of the countdown. T-minus 7 minutes and counting. All of the Soyuz systems reported in excellent shape. Now just 6 minutes away from launch. The range at Baikonur reported to be clear. The Soyuz rocket ready to begin its journey. A snowy landscape about to yield to a fiery start for the journey of the Progress 66 en route to the International Space Station.
Ground measurement system activated by round 1 command.
The fuel lines and other elements of the Soyuz rocket engines are being purged with nitrogen right now to fireproof them by removing the vapors of fuel and oxidizer. And telemetry now being recorded with onboard recording devices as well as in the blockhouse at Baikonur. All of the onboard parameters of the Soyuz booster and the Progress resupply craft are being monitored now. Good telemetry being received at the Russian Mission Control Center outside of Moscow. Coming up on the T-minus 3 minute mark, the booster tanks soon will be pressurized for flight, optimizing the flow of fuel and helping to add structural support to the rocket. And tank pressurization now underway. This will be followed shortly by the termination of the ground propellant feed to the Soyuz booster. Coming up on the 2 minute mark until launch.
Combustion chamber nitrogen purge reported.
"90 seconds until launch." T-minus 1 minute and counting. The Soyuz now on internal power, the booster and the Progress on internal power. The automated sequence start has begun. First of the two ground umbilicals is now retracted. The second umbilical now retracting, and the engine sequence start has begun. The turbo pumps now up to flight speed, counting down to liftoff. Engines at maximum thrust. And liftoff. Liftoff of the 66th Progress resupply vehicle outbound to the International Space Station. Good roll, pitch, and yaw program reported from the blockhouse at Baikonur. The first stage engines operating normally. Liftoff of the
40 seconds.
vehicle is stable. Good engine performance reported from Baikonur.
50 seconds. Chamber pressure. Thrusters. 60 seconds. Yaw, pitch, roll. Nominal.
Good yaw, pitch, and roll program reported.
70 seconds into the flight, all nominal.
73 seconds into the flight. Everything reported to be operating normally on the Soyuz booster.
80 seconds. All booster parameters and onboard systems are nominal. 90 seconds. First stage thrusters at rate nominal.
1 minute, 40 seconds into the flight. Everything proceeding normally with the first stage performance of the Soyuz U booster. The first stage separation, the four strap-on boosters separating coming up just seconds from now.
Parameters are normal.
And we have booster separation.
120
First
seconds.
stage separation reported. Everything proceeding nominally. The Soyuz booster now 30 miles in altitude, 73 miles downrange from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, traveling almost 4,000 miles an hour.
140 seconds. All the onboard and systems and booster parameters are normal. 150
The
seconds.
next major milestone will be the jettisoning of the launch shroud. And the launch shroud has been jettisoned. 2 minutes, 41 seconds into the flight.
180 seconds. All booster parameters are normal. The exact time of launch.
All the vehicle structures and all the structural parameters are reported to be normal.
18.
3 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight.
Seconds into the flight, the second stage thrusters operating nominal. Repeating the exact launch time, 08583.
The second stage engine is firing normally.
210 seconds into the flight, all booster parameters and onboard systems are normal.
Second stage shutdown will occur at the 4 minute, 45 second mark into the flight, just over a minute from now.
230 seconds, the vehicle is stable.
The vehicle is stable. As we approach the 4 minute mark into the flight, nothing but good reports so far from the blockhouse in Baikonur.
Stage thrusters operate normal. 250 seconds, yaw, pitch, and roll parameters normal.
Yaw, pitch, and roll program are perfect. So far, the Soyuz is dead on, flying straight as an arrow, everything in good shape.
Seconds.
4 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight.
And systems are nominal. 270 seconds, all parameters of the booster rocket is nominal.
4 minutes, 38 seconds into the flight. We have second stage separation.
The third stage.
The second stage separating at 104 miles in altitude, 179 miles downrange. The Soyuz and the Progress traveling almost 7,500 miles an hour.
Lower skirts.
The third stage engine up and running. This burn of the third stage engine about 4 minutes in duration.
So the vehicle is stable.
Good vehicle stabilization reported.
320 seconds. All booster parameters and onboard systems are nominal. 230 seconds. The third stage thruster operates nominal.
Third stage engine continues to burn normally at the 5 minute 40 second mark into the flight. Just over 3 minutes of powered flight remaining.
350 seconds, all nominal. Your pitch, all parameters are normal.
The international fleet of supply vehicles that started a couple of months ago with the launch of the HTV, the White Stork, now the Progress, the SpaceX Dragon, soon to arrive at the International Space Station, the flotilla of resupply craft heading for the station. 6 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight, about 2.5 minutes left in powered flight.
390 seconds. All booster control parameters are normal. 400 seconds, vehicle stable.
Everything's stable on the Soyuz booster, the Progress resupply craft riding on top of the third stage.
410 seconds.
As we are now 6 minutes, 45 seconds into the flight with 2 minutes of powered flight remaining.
420 seconds, yaw, pitch, roll, and rotation parameters are normal.
Good yaw, pitch and roll program reported. Vehicle stability is excellent.
430 seconds. The third stage thrusters operate normally. 440 seconds, the vehicle is stable.
7 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight. The third stage continues to operate normally, sending the Progress to its preliminary orbit.
All nominal. Structure parameters and the booster parameters are all nominal.
Booster parameters are normal, according to the flight control team, both in Baikonur and at the Russian Mission Control Center.
Booster performing nominally.
Approaching the 8 minute mark into the flight, less than a minute of powered flight remaining.
480, all parameters nominal. 490, the stability is nominal. 500 seconds, the
8 minutes, 15 seconds into the flight. Everything continues to be very, very normal on board the Soyuz booster.
570.
No issues reported so far.
Yaw and roll parameters.
The final few seconds now of powered flight.
$520 control parameters nominal. 500.
We have third stage shutdown and third stage separation. The Progress is now in its preliminary orbit, standing by for array and antenna deploy.
The report is over.
And reports now being received from the Russian Mission Control Center that the Progress has deployed all of its navigational antennas and its solar arrays. So the Progress has ridden a true Soyuz U on a perfect launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. An 8 minute, 46 second ride from the launch pad at Baikonur to its preliminary orbit. The Progress now on its way, beginning a 2-day rendezvous to reach the International Space Station for an automated docking in the early morning hours Central Time on Friday, docking scheduled at 2:34 a.m. Central Time. And this view from the black and white engineering camera on the outside of the Progress vehicle as it begins its journey to the International Space Station. Again, liftoff occurring right on time at 11:58 and 33 seconds p.m. Central Time, 12:58 and 33 seconds a.m. Eastern Time, which was 2 minutes before noon at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Soyuz U booster lifted off. All of its operation for all three stages was perfectly normal. 8 minutes and 46 seconds after launch, the third stage shut down, and the Progress separated from the third stage and immediately deployed its antennas and solar arrays as planned as it begins its 2-day journey to the International Space Station. At this point, the Corps' automated rendezvous system on the Progress is going through what is called a self-test, a preliminary test of its systems to make sure it is operating. That will be the guidance for the Progress during the terminal stage of the rendezvous on Friday morning. That will lead the Progress to a link-up to the Pirs docking compartment on the Earth-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station. Liftoff of the 66th Progress resupply vehicle outbound to the International Space Station. This is Mission Control Houston. Once again, you're looking at an engineering camera view from the exterior of the Progress 66 cargo craft that launched successfully from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan just over 13 minutes ago. The 8-minute, 46-second ride to orbit was perfect. The Soyuz U booster performed as advertised to send the Progress into its preliminary orbit with rendezvous and docking scheduled for early Friday morning. So with Progress safely in orbit, its solar arrays deployed, its navigational antennas deployed, it begins its journey at the same time that the SpaceX Dragon commercial cargo craft is in the home stage of its journey that began with a launch from Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Sunday morning. The Dragon is slowly but surely closing in on the station. The Expedition 50 crew will be at the ready with crew members Thomas Pesquet of the European Space Agency and Shane Kimbrough of NASA standing by at the robotic workstation in the cupola, ready to reach out and capture Dragon. Our coverage of the final stage of rendezvous and grapple will begin at 3:30 a.m. Central Time, 4:30 a.m. Eastern Time, with grapple scheduled an hour and a half after that. We'll be back on the air at 7:30 a.m. Central Time, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, as Dragon is installed and bolted into place on the Earth-facing port of the Harmony module of the International Space Station. And on Friday, we'll be back with our